Hello everybody, Kyle Sasser here, and it's everybody's favorite time of the month. That's right, real estate market statistics time. These real estate market statistics are for Hillsborough County for April 2025. So if you watch last month's videos, you know that I've been kind of moving the studio around, and honestly, it's kind of been a long plan of mine just to kind of showcase different spots and unique areas that I find interesting and pretty. Obviously, this is an absolutely gargantuan fireplace setup here. And so we're at the Engineers Club of Dayton. We'll throw some B-roll in here so you can see what the entire room looks like. There's lots of very old school animal heads around the coffered ceilings. It's a beautiful room. Located in Dayton, Ohio, and it is affiliated, interestingly enough. So the Engineers Club is affiliated with the Tampa Club, which is located in the Bank of America building in downtown Tampa. So there's a little bit of that Tampa connection here. But yep, we're here doing real estate market statistics. So you might be asking yourself, I have the report in hand and it says March. Why are you calling this the April numbers? The reason why is real estate market statistics. We usually look at them month to month. A day or a week is way too short of a time frame to get any meaningful data from. And so comparing this month to the same month last year is a very good way to determine what the market is actually doing. Now, we don't really compare sequential months either because there's a natural ebb and flow to the real estate cycle. A lot of times it'll follow either the seasons. Wintertime is notoriously pretty slow, or schools, whenever schools are letting out or starting up, the number of home sales increases and decreases accordingly. So we're comparing March because that is the most recent complete month that we have. And we're comparing March 2025 to March 2024 because that is about the only way to get the full picture. I have been keeping a little bit more of an eye on the month to month things, looking at like what's happened in January, February, March. The reason why is because the market's been a little more volatile. There's been a lot more swings than usual. I have been keeping an eye more on the month to month, but again, primarily speaking, we do look and compare March 2025 to March 2024. Now, if you remember back to your math classes, you would remember mean, median, or mode, or average and median is kind of the main one too that you talk about. So average is something that everyone kind of can think of in their mind. You would take 5 houses, you would add up the price of those houses, you would divide it by 5, and that will give you the average sales price. Median sales price is a little different though. Median sales price would be, let's say you have 100 homes that have sold. The median is the point at which there is the same number of homes above that price point as below that price point. So basically, it is more of the midpoint of the market. I typically pay more attention to the median sales price, and the reason why is because a large number of very inexpensive homes, or if a significantly expensive home sells, so if you have a home that sells for $15 million, that's really going to move the average sales price around. But on the median sales price, it does not move it around because it is just one data point. So like I said, I pay a little bit more attention to the median sales price. So let's dive into these Hillsborough County statistics. Total number of closed sales was up 7.9% from 1,264 homes to 1,364 homes. Total number of cash sales was up 15% from 260 to 299. And median sales price was down 3% from $428,000 to $415,000. Average sales price was down 6%. From $562,270 to $528,499. Median percent of original list price was down 0.5% from 96.8% to 96.3%. Whenever you put a house up for sale, you have your initial listing price. And what this metric is what percentage of that original asking price does the eventual sale amount to? That should almost always be less than 100%. So it's not unusual that it is less than 100%. 100% or higher, which is what we had in peak craziness, that is definitely the unusual section. Median time to contract was up 20.7% from 29 days to 35 days. So that is basically just over the line into a slightly neutral market. Honestly, I think with this, if you remove some of the flood damaged homes, it's still very much a seller's market. So, because remember, these stats include both flood damaged homes as well as not flood damaged homes. And that's why the cash sales did tick up a pretty significant amount there, 15%. Total number of new listings was also up 8.6% from 1,842 to 2,001 homes. Active inventory was up 35.9% to 4,304. Foreclosures and short sales, or as I like to call it, the doom and gloom section, there was a total of 3 foreclosures and 1 short sale. So not much going on in the doom and gloom section. Now, I do like to break down the various price categories here because a $1 million home sells in a little bit different time frame than a $300,000 or $400,000 house. And it's primarily because the buyer pool for the $1 million house is significantly lower. There's just fewer people in the market to buy $1 million plus homes. Now, overall, compared to March 2024, number of sales is actually up significantly. So 150 to 200,000, there was 30 more houses sold. That's an increase of 150,000. 200 to 250 was up 93.8%, total 62. Thing to keep in mind here, again, flood damaged homes are not going to sell full retail price. So yeah, not unusual to see a huge jump in the number of less expensive homes. It's not that we're making more affordable housing. It is that houses that were like 400, 500,000 got flooded and now they're being sold for cash for, 200,000. But even the 400 to 600,000 segment, which you would think would be kind of slow, was up 11.9% to 469. There is some waterfront in there, some waterfront flood damaged homes that would account for some of that, but the total number is 469. So that is a significant increase. And honestly, Hillsborough County has a surprisingly low amount of actual waterfront, which is weird. Pinellas County, by comparison, has gobs and gobs and gobs more waterfront property. Median time to contract, 100 to 150,000 was down 55.4%, total of 33. 200 to 250,000 was up 133% at 21 days. 300 to 400 was up 60% to 40 days. 400 to 600 was up 8.3% to 39. And yeah, so you can see everything's taken a little bit longer to sell than it had previously. But again, things were super quick. Things were absurdly quick in 2024 still, so not unexpected to see that number starting to come up. Total number of new listings is up across the board. 150 to 200,000, there's 123% more homes, total of 29. Again, those are almost certainly flood damaged homes. 250 to 300,000 was up 2.9% to 105. 300 to 400 is where you start to see the bulk of the market. It was up 7.6% to 541. 400 to 600 was up 1% to 676. And 600 to a million was actually up 20.7%. Total of 414 new listings. And then we get to total inventory. Basically, no matter what price category you're looking at, there are more homes to choose from. So 250 to 300,000 was up 48.2%. 300 to 400,000 was up 34.8% to 1,031. 400 to 600,000 was up 26% to 1,473 homes to choose from, and 600 to a million was up 40.7% to 878, and a million or more was up 38.4% to 584. So those are the Hillsborough County real estate statistics for April 2025. So we'll kind of bring the Hillsborough County analysis and the Pinellas County analysis back together. They did diverge a little bit, but with what I saw this month, put it this way, it'll save me from having to produce separate explanations. So basically, we had 2 hurricanes come through in October of last year. Absolutely horrible for the area. A lot of questions happen whenever that comes up. Obviously, more houses were flooded in the area than ever because the last significant hurricane strike was in 1920. It's called the Tampa Bay hurricane. It was a direct strike. It was also terrible, but there wasn't as many people living in the area then. I've also lived through my own flood event. Tropical Storm Edom, I had water in my house and I had to go through that. And I was selling houses at that time and I saw the recovery that the neighborhood went through. And so basically whenever the hurricanes came through, I extrapolated that out to the area at large, thinking that that would also hold true. And basically the statistics have borne that out. And so basically what we essentially have 2 markets currently. Okay, so backing up a little bit. Before the hurricanes, Tampa Bay was holding extremely steady with actual increases compared to most of the rest of the state. Much of the rest of the state of Florida is not doing great on real estate. Prices have been in decline. Some areas, houses are sitting like 100+ days on market. Definitely not a good real estate market in a lot of Florida, but Tampa and St. Pete and Clearwater has been a little bit of a bright spot in the state. Obviously 2 hurricanes. If you would have asked me right before the hurricanes hit, hey, 2 hurricanes are coming, what do you think is going to happen? I'd be like, the market is going to crater because that's just common wisdom. But then once it happened and I got to thinking about it, my thought was, because again, whenever I had my flood event and I watch the neighborhood recover, there's essentially 2 markets. There are the flood damaged homes. And the problem is you've probably seen them online or in pictures of them. The drywall is torn out up to 4 feet. There's no cabinets, there's no bathrooms, there's nothing. The only way to buy that house is with cash. A bank is not going to finance that for you. So you essentially have a much larger scale investor market. And that's when prices in those areas significantly, and because it's cash only, those prices are significantly impacted in a downward direction. Same thing's kind of happened in the condo market, although that's mostly been resolved by this point. With the engineering studies and the reserve reports. But again, so there was condos out there where if there was an engineering problem found, nobody could get a bank loan on that condo, which meant that the condos were cash only, which means that, cash buyers are not in the business of paying more for a property than necessary if they can help it. So essentially there's two markets. So you have the flood damaged homes, which can only be bought with cash, and that's really pulling on some of those numbers, median sales price, total number of cash purchases, and average sales price. And this is true in Hillsborough County. Now, Hillsborough County doesn't have as many waterfront or flood damaged homes as Pinellas County, but they're still part of the market. And just, also that overall sentiment thing. The interesting part, and I'll throw this up on the screen here so you can see it. The way I describe it to people, what I noticed in my business first is, people, basically the interior parts, the not hurricane or flood impacted areas, we're actually picking up so far as level of interest, demand, and prices. Number of multiple offers increased. And the reason why is because, especially in Pinellas County, a large section of the county didn't have viable housing because it was flooded. So if you wanted to buy like an intact house and finance it in Pinellas County, there was, basically the interior of the county is the only place you could do that for the last, say 4 or 5 months. What we're starting to see is homes that were flood damaged have been repaired and are starting to come onto the market. But you still have those two separate markets. So there's the flood damage stuff around the coasts. Hillsborough County has some stuff on the interior, like up around, like Fowler Avenue, like up north, up that way. So you have the flood damaged market, and then you have just the regular old, this house is perfectly fine and livable market. And what's happened is the flood damaged homes were previously like 400 to 500,000, and they're selling for like 200,000 now because it's cash only and they need, $150,000 in rehab. So you have that market over here, and then you have the regular market, which honestly prices have increased. So I'll throw it up on the screen here. So what it's going to be is all of the houses in non-flood damaged areas in Pinellas County, and then I'll pull the median home price and what that has done. And it's very clear to see that what the interior part of the county is doing compared to the coastal areas is night and day. So you have to take these numbers in the context of what is actually going on with conditions on the ground. I've had a few arguments about this with people, and they have not produced anything to prove that to the contrary. Now, the asterisk on all this is the level of inventory is getting up to the point to where it may start truly dragging on median sales price. Again, currently the markets are separated. If consumer sentiment gets to the point where people are kind of put off of the area, then we would expect both markets to start to decline. Haven't seen that yet, and I don't think it would start in Hillsborough County first, and as you saw, most of the numbers in Hillsborough County were actually pretty positive this month. So it would show up in Hillsborough County first, just because Hillsborough County is usually kind of the first to fall off with actual big trends. And honestly, with this, so Hillsborough and Pinellas County do kind of follow in lockstep a little bit over the, like I said, been doing this for 9 years. They always kind of follow each other. Pinellas County is usually a little higher than Hillsborough County, just proximity to the beach, but they, if one goes up, they both kind of go up about the same rate. Since the hurricane, Pinellas County's, a little bit more seesawing. So I've been paying a little bit more attention to Hillsborough County to see what it's doing, and it really has been holding steady. Hillsborough County has been holding super steady. And again, more than likely, that trend is going to continue. So now we do still have some things you have to keep an eye on, So by and large, though, the Hillsborough County and Pinellas County market trend is almost certainly going to continue. The only thing that's always kind of the monkey wrench in the gears is economics. So if some economic problems or something like that happens, then we'll have to see how that develops. But so far as leading indicators and what I'm seeing in the market statistics, everything looks like it's going to be holding pretty steady through the summertime, with things just constantly improving and getting restored after the hurricanes. So thanks for watching these market statistics. If you would like help finding your own great place in Tampa Bay, I would love to help you out. You can reach me at 727-300-3300. 2111. There's also a link to my calendar down below where you can book a chat that works best for you. Pick your time. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you have your thoughts on what the market's doing, I'd love to hear them. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. My name is Kyle Sasser, and I'll talk to you soon.